Hello, everyone, and welcome back to This Day in History. It is July 18th, 2024. Not that the year matters, it's all about the history of the date. We have a lot of stuff here, some good stuff. Um, I got new sunglasses. Actually, I got two new pairs of glasses. It was a really good deal. It was $158 for the two pairs of glasses because these ones I had tinted so that I could have a pair of sunglasses and a pair of regular glasses. Eye exam, the two pairs of glasses, all for $158 at America's Best, and it was a really great deal. And so I'm happier. I could see without cracks in the lenses. It's a bright, beautiful, sunny, blue skies day, and so it's just a good day. So let's just get into it, shall we? For the birthdays, we have English novelist born on this day in 1811, William Makepeace Thackeray. He's best known for Vanity Fair from 1847 to 1848, and he's also known for The True History of Henry Esmond Esquire. Um, it's notable that the Thackeray was born in India. We fast forward to the 20th century. In 1918, we see the birth of Nelson Mandela. He was the president of South Africa. He was a civil rights activist in his country. He was actually imprisoned for like 20 years, I think. It was when the apartheid was going on down there, and apartheid, in basic layman's terms, was basically legalized racism towards Africans. Believe it or not, it's an it's an African country, right? So they're the indigenous people. Yet uh, the white people that took over, the Dutch colonists and whatnot, um, they had taken over to, like, it was their country, or so they thought. And so during apartheid, they passed a lot of laws that, you know, basically took land from blacks, made them second class citizens. Um, Voting rights were nil, and so the white man had really empowered himself and enslaved the local gentry, and it was, we had already dispelled with racism, well, not racism, but with slavery here in the 1860s. We had, the British had done it earlier in the 1830s rather. They had abolished slavery in the 1830s. We have a situation where in Africa it didn't really dissolve itself until the 1960s and 70s, I think. So whenever you hear about apartheid, right? Um, Apartheid was basically that in South Africa it was essentially the equivalent of Jim Crow laws here in the United States. Uh, they existed there in South Africa. Um, Years ago, when I worked at a local store, we had a family that immigrated from South Africa, and I genuinely liked them. I mean, the dad, he was a really nice guy. Um, the only thing is, like, he said that the reason why they immigrated to America is because South Africa was becoming a black man's country, and you could hear the disdain in his voice about that. So I mean, he clearly was of that camp that had benefited from apartheid and preferred that apartheid had never gone away. So it's like, it was kind of disappointing, I guess. But Nelson Mandela, he was a great man, um, awesome human being, for his people, for the world. We fast forward 2 years later, 3 years later, in 1921, John Glenn, that would be astronaut John Glenn, he was the first U.S. astronaut to orbit the Earth 3 times. Um, Excuse me. Sorry, I got something tickling my throat there. 1927, we see the birth of German composer Kurt Masur. 1937, Hunter S. Thompson is an American journalist born on this day. 1950, Richard Branson, who's a British entrepreneur, was born on this day. 1967, we see American actor and producer Vin Diesel. He was born on this day in 1967. And of course, you would know him from the Fast and Furious movies, the Riddick movies. He got killed in Saving Private Ryan. He was in the first Triple X movie. So he's had a pretty good career of being in an action star. In 1975, we see the birth of MIA. It's a British-born Sri Lankan rapper, born the year I'm born, 1975, July 18, 1975 is when MIA was born. So now we go back to the Wayback Machine, to history. And we start with the year 1195. In 1195, we see the Almohads were victorious over King Alfonso VII of Castile, a victory over his forces, in what is known as the Battle of Alarcos. Now, to put in context, Castile is central Spain, and the Almohads were a Berber confederation that created an Islamic empire in North Africa and Spain. So here's where we're seeing Moorish. They were referred to as the Moors, Moorish or Islamic expansion into Europe, and it started by way of Spain. They got a foothold into Europe through Spain. They also got a foothold in Europe through coming in through the Balkans. Not the Balkans. Yeah, coming in through the Balkans. Like Bulgaria and the like. That's why to this day, countries like southern Yugoslavia and Bulgaria and all those they're very ethnic. They're very Orthodox style. Almost Islamic style, and it's because of that cross blend there of Christianity and Islam, clashing, meeting, and having coexistence there. So this day marks the defeat of Alfonso's forces. 1817, we see English novelist Jane Austen. She would pass away at the young age of 41. Her notable work were two books that I think both became movies. I know the second one did. Sense and Sensibility, published in 1811. Pride and Prejudice, published in 1813. 101 years later, in the year 1918, we have French General Ferdinand Foch. He launched a counterstrike against the Germans, and it forced the Germans into a hasty retreat. This was the Second Battle of the Marne. And so obviously this was during World War I. We're going to have more about Germany here momentarily. 1927, we see American baseball player Ty Cobb collected his 4,000th career hit. 1944, Allied forces, they capture Saint-Lô, which is in France. It was a pivotal communications center, so it was vital to create Saint-Lô. And so what they did in France is that they were hopping from major city to major city to major city, trying to connect the dots Much like what we did in the Pacific, where we were island hopping. You had to secure you know, the Midway Islands before you got to the Marianas, before you got to dot 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 dot. Um, it was it's a hopping campaign, and then like because once you get the next goal, you achieve the next town, you secure it, then you go on, progress, and that's um, it's time consuming, but it's how wars are won. So it's on this day in 1944 that we captured St. Lo. If you watched Saving Private Ryan, um, Ted Danson plays a captain, where he and Tom Hanks' character, they're talking about the cities that they need to take, and then they take St. Lo, they take this, so it's for context. We fast forward to 1976. At the Montreal Olympic Games, that'd be the Olympics. I just said that. Duh. Romanian gymnast Nadia Comaneci, she became the first gymnast to ever be awarded with a perfect score of 10. I was a year old, so obviously I don't remember that. But what I do remember from my early childhood, the United States skipped out on the 1980 Olympics. I remember the 84 and 88 Olympics very vividly because McDonald's sponsored it, and like I was so bored with it because I don't like watching the Olympics, but it was so inundated on TV that you couldn't get away from it. But I remember, especially in like 1984, they were, it was Nadia Comaneci this, Nadia Comaneci that. When it was during the gymnastics part, she was that benchmark that all the other gymnasts are trying to live up to, and it's just damn near impossible because she got a perfect score. I believe she was only like, 15 or 16 years old when that happened. I can't remember how old she was, but she was, she did damn good. So we fast forward to 2013, and here's where life imitates fiction. You'll see what I mean in a moment. So 2013, Detroit files for Chapter 9 bankruptcy protection. It's the largest filing for a U.S. city ever. On a side note, the city officially emerged out of its bankruptcy the following year. What do I mean by life imitating art? Well, the original RoboCop movie was based out of Detroit. And the premise of it was that here is this mega conglomeration corporation, OCP, has literally taken over the city because the city went bankrupt. That being Detroit being bankrupt. So I remember this. I remember when Detroit filed for bankruptcy. I'm like, well, next thing you know, we're going to have a RoboCop out on the street. So it was... yeah. So today's featured event, and some might have a disdain for it. Some might ask, why would you even bother highlighting this? Because it's history. And I don't shy away from history. I the good, the bad, the ugly, the whatever, right? It's history. And what's the number one rule of school of thought, I should say, for history is that you learn it so that you don't repeat the mistakes of the past. Okay? With that said, the year is 1925, and a very important political manifesto is written by a not-so-nice guy. And it would become the party Bible until 1945 when they were taken out. I am talking about the political manifesto called Mein Kampf, written by Adolf Hitler, which he dictated. Someone else actually wrote it for him, but and if you don't know, Mein Kampf means my struggle. It was published on this day in 1925. It would become the Bible for Nazism in the Third Reich. There was a second volume of it that appeared 2 years later. It was basically the doctrine, the blueprint. I mean, he basically spells out in this manifesto exactly what his clear intentions were for Europe, what his clear intentions were for Germany, what his clear intentions were toward seeing a world that didn't have Jews in it. Right? So anyone who wants to defend him and say, well, the final solution was really his henchman's idea, not really his, I'm going to call BS on that, because he clearly wanted something done with them. Mein Kampf even says so. He had a revenge factor. He had revenge in store for the French. He even says so. He had, this is why the French were like, we should be nipping this guy in the bud now. And you had some circles in the English that are like, we need to be nipping this guy in the bud now. JFK was going to Oxford at the time. Later, when his dad was ambassador over there, and he even said, hey, this Hitler guy is someone we need to be watching. Churchill read some of that stuff and was like, this American kid knows exactly what he's talking about here. And the thing is, like, if people had taken Mein Kampf more seriously, Neville Chamberlain might have been a little more aggressive in ensuring that Hitler didn't become the despotic tyrant that he became, or the madman that he became. So it's like, yes, Hitler is ultimately responsible for all of his actions and all of his misdeeds, but you also have to take into account that certain people need to take responsibility for enabling him to do that. Neville Chamberlain was one guy that did that. He was naive. He was impractical. He imposed upon Hitler to sign this piece of paper that says, I'll be good and I won't invade, or I won't create war. And, I won't, I'll be a good little German and I'll just stick to my space. Right. And the thing is, like, it was a piece of paper, and that was it. There was, that piece of paper was only as worth as what the British and the rest of the global community were willing to do to back it up. And, and it wasn't even saber rattling. It was just, we agreed to a peace pact, right? And we will be good friends because you are going to agree to this peace pact. And Germany was like, no, I got other ideas, right? I'm going to do what I'm going to do. So, September 1st, 1939, he invades Poland. In 1940, he invades France, Belgium, the Netherlands, right? By 1941, he decides he's going to break off his non-aggressive pact with Russia. So, when you let a tyrant go and you don't put them in their place, this is what happens. Saddam Hussein is a great example in the 20th century, right? UN resolution after resolution after resolution after resolution. Again, with this guy, there was 16 UN resolutions drafted against him in the period of 12 years before someone did something about it. And that's the problem with, when you see a dictator and you impose a piece of paper on him, that piece of paper is worthless unless you actually have something to back it up with. And unfortunately, it took a global conflagration to put that man to task. So that's it for today. We will do this again tomorrow for July 19th. So be well, take care, be blessed. It's a great day out there. Go enjoy it. And we will see you again tomorrow. We'll do this all over again. All right? Take care. Bye.